Welcome to This Might Be Personal, Episode 2, The Tortoise Yearning to be the Hare. I'm standing and looking at the finish line. It's August 21st, 2025, and I take it back. I'm not standing. I'm laying in the emergency room, staring at the ceiling while they're checking every single thing on my body. A few minutes before, my speech began to slur, my face began to droop, my limbs on the right side of my body went weak, and I couldn't talk the way I used to. I felt trapped inside my head. I couldn't communicate the way I normally do, and I am absolutely terrified. I want out of this moment. I want it to stop. I want it to go back to how it was before. I want to feel better, and I want to know what is going on. And I start hearing scores. I start hearing things about my brainstem, and they have me try and look in different directions. And then I hear them say that one eye is moving slower than the other. I hear them ask me to describe pictures, and I'm only getting one word out at a time. And I don't even know if they fully make sense. As they continue to ask me to do what seems like simple tasks, I begin to cry. And one of the nurses asks me why I'm crying, and I don't even have the words to explain how frustrated I am. Leading up to this event, I'd been working out on a regular basis. I'd been training with kettlebells. I had been getting into some great shape, and I was feeling so proud of myself. I'd even been talking with my personal trainer about how I wanted to compete in kettlebells. And suddenly, I'd lost control of the entire right side of my body. By the time we left the hospital, we learned that I had a stroke. It was something totally different to go out those doors with a walker, to go out those doors with a speech impediment, to go out those doors not remembering certain things, to go out and not have the same grip strength, to go out and not know how to handle being overstimulated. Before those moments, before that day, I had always been able to go. I was the mom who could sit in a room and read something while I had my children in the room wrestling while they were watching something, and I could still get it done. I was the person with impeccable patience who could sit with somebody and continue to help them even once they'd given up on themselves. I was the person who, when they asked, when do you need it by? It tended to be an arbitrary question because ultimately I was going to keep working on it until it was done, way before the deadline. I never stopped. I never stopped going, not for a minute. And now I didn't have a choice. I began rehab not that long after, and it focused on 3 different areas: physical rehab, occupational rehab, and speech rehab. In the different areas, it took different amounts of time for me to get back to the level that I am at now. I'll be honest with you, there's still things that I'm working on, and there's still things that I'll continue to work on for probably the next few years. Physical came back first. I was really lucky to have had a small stroke. There were certainly some people in there who were suffering far more than I was. And as a mom of 2 young kids, I am so thankful that I'm able to move around the way I am. I'm so thankful that I am able to chase them around and that I still have my mobility. And I am so blessed that the mobility came back as quickly as it did. When we're talking about occupational therapy, that took a little bit longer. I had to learn to type again as quickly as I used to. I had to rely actually pretty heavily on my left hand for the majority of the time that I was in rehab. I had to relearn how to sign my signature. My handwriting looked totally different after the stroke. It was all squished together, and the letters were very sharp and jagged, and they just didn't look like my handwriting. It was weird. I take so much pride in my handwriting, and I take so much pride in my identity. And for all of this to have shifted just felt so odd. In speech therapy, we don't just work on speech. We work on memory. We work on different ways to process information. And that was where I spent a bulk of my time, because things that used to be easy to process were suddenly hard. Being able to find the right words to explain things wasn't so easy for me anymore. And that was probably the most difficult thing for me to face, because as somebody who considers themselves a linguist, as somebody who has a degree in creative writing, to no longer be able to find the words was very disheartening. We also focused on things like overstimulation, because it was really, really hard for me to not lose patience with myself when I could no longer do tasks the same way I did before, with more than one thing going on at a time. I remember making some really great strides in physical therapy and feeling really proud of myself. I remember there was one day where I got to start working with kettlebells, and I actually got to do some one-arm long cycles at the rehab center. And as I was doing it, I was thinking, yeah, I'm on the right track. I see the finish line and I can do it. I'm going to be there. I am getting there. And I saw the Hare in me coming back. And the next hour was spent in speech, and we focused all on processing. You know those little games where they give you pieces of information and you need to figure out what the final solution is by different clues? Those are excellent tools. They're excellent brain teasers. They're excellent for getting your brain to work on a higher level. They are also something that is used so much when you are going through brain recovery in rehab. And I was working on one of those for an hour. And it was one that I looked at it, and had I done that brain teaser before I had my stroke, I would have been able to solve it in probably 10 minutes. And when I sat there and I was so stuck on one clue, I wanted to cry. It wasn't just about the one clue. It was about wondering, well, why is my brain not doing as much as my body? Why won't my brain catch up? Why is it that when I'm at home and I'm reading and I'm doing the homework, why can't my brain repeat the same things when I am here? Why is it taking so long? Why am I not good enough? I should pause there for a second to say that I did remarkably well in rehab. I did remarkably well for being in rehab for 3 months. It's the standard that I put on myself, that loss of identity, that was incredibly hard for me to deal with. And while I watched myself be successful in one area, I couldn't understand why I didn't have the full me back. As we sat in that room, I stared at that clue, and I read the rest of my clues over and over and over. And we hit the 1 hour mark, and I was told to go ahead and work on it and bring it back for next time. There's a weird sense of shame that comes with losing that sense of identity. And there was nobody who was putting that shame on me except for myself. In fact, when I walked out of that room, the speech therapist was telling me what a great job I did, how hard I was working, how impressed they were with my ability to focus during that session. But it wasn't good enough for me. I didn't make it to that finish line. I wanted to get there first. I didn't want to be the tortoise. I wanted to stop being so slow at it. When I hit my 3-month mark in rehab, I had been out of the physical therapy section for a month. I beat all of my goals for occupational therapy, and I just beat my final goal for speech therapy. On the last day, I was speaking with both of my therapists that I had left, And we were talking about tools that I would have to remain successful. And one of the therapists said to me, you've made so much progress in these first 3 months, but it's really the first year and a half that are going to be the most important for you in your recovery. So if you've come this far in this amount of time, just imagine how far you'll come over the rest of the next year and a half. And it made me pause. They had told me that so many times that it's really a year and a half to be working, to gain back that strength, to gain back that memory, to gain back the ability to speak the way you did before, to gain back the functionality in your hands, to gain back all of those pieces of you. And I guess it seemed like it was far too long, at least for me, to be without that identity. It seemed far too long for me to be able to go without going. Now, I'm about 8-9 months out from the stroke, and I've watched the person that I've turned into since August 21st, 2025. I'm a person now who's more willing to ask for help. I'm a person who better understands boundaries. I'm a person who takes life less for granted. I'm a person who is more thankful for the small, everyday things. I'm a person who spends a lot less time looking at things through the camera lens and looking at it with my real eyes. I'm a person now who is there to enjoy the moment because you never know when it'll be your last. I've become the person that says, let's do it. Let's take that chance. Let's go for it. Let's take the opportunity because this might be the only time in this lifetime to do it. Now, this doesn't mean I've fully given up on the part of me that's go, go, go. Yes, I've got it. I'm going to do it. I want to get there first. I want to be the best. That doesn't mean the perfectionist in me is gone, but it does mean that I'm looking at life a little bit through a different lens. I'm okay with that finish line taking a little bit longer to get to. Even though I wish I could still go the pace that I used to. I understand that it might be a little bit better for me to slow down because it's not really about how fast you get to the end. It's about what you put into it and what makes it worthwhile in getting there.